What do you do when the trust is broken?
You do anything else you do when something's broken? You fix it.
Let's talk about it.
So you're trying to say that your best friend or your friend can't be someone in the family, and it can't be someone that you're having sex with. Is that what they're trying to say?
That's what they're trying to say. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either.
Quite frankly, from the Lees, secrecy has no place in your marriage. We don't talk about some things because we don't want to offend. We don't talk about some things because we might feel like it, I don't know, you might start pointing fingers at me. Hello, I'm James Lee.
And I'm Tasha Lee.
And we are Elevate Marriages.
Hello, everybody.
We are marriage advocates, marriage experience, 21 years together as husband and wife. And we are here to share with you our marriage experience, our roadmap, so to speak, to kind of help you navigate this path, avoid some pitfalls and some valleys and dips and dives that we've overcome so that you can apply it to your marriage and help you to be better husbands and wives to each other.
Yes, I always say we didn't get a manual when we started this thing. There was no special book that told us this is going to happen. He's going to say this, then you say this, or you say this, and he says that. None of that.
It don't happen that way.
It doesn't. But through our experiences with each other, how we grew up, watching and talking to so many of you, we've learned a thing or two.
Yeah.
We've learned a thing or two. So what we do is pass on these little nuggets to you in hopes that it may make your path a little bit smoother, right? We help each other. If there's anything that we can do for you, like be your personal marriage mentors, help hold you accountable in your marriage, please reach out to us at the Lees at elevatemarriages.com. Again, the Lees at elevatemarriages.com. We also take suggestions at that same site. So if you have any suggestions for our videos, any date night ideas, any pictures you want to send us, or video clips of you and your boo doing boo things, then you send it to us there or reach out to us there. We appreciate this time to spend with you just a few minutes before you, and we hope what we say can be of benefit. And if so, don't be selfish, right?
Share this thing.
Share. Sharing is caring.
Cost you nothing to share.
That's true. So do that for us if you can. Share it. Check us out on all social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, the podcast too. So you can, if you're in the car and you can't watch us, you should not watch us in the car. Don't do that.
Just turn it on and listen.
Yeah, just listen to us.
And you can tag us. If you're doing something together as a couple, just tag us.
Yeah, that'll be cool too, so that we can see what's going on. And again, we pass that on to other people too, so everybody else can be inspired about from what you do. So that's that. Now, broken trust.
Probably one of the best quotes I heard came from a young man by the name of Jimmy Evans.
He would appreciate that.
Yes. And he said, trust is built in drops, but it's lost in buckets.
In drops. Okay, so trust is built little by little. I can see that. That visual is really great.
Oh, yeah,
I like that visual. So little by little. But
when you break the trust, it's like knocking that bucket over and spilling all of that trust all over the floor or the ground or whatever.
Can you scoop that thing back in there? Can you kind of get a towel and bring it back into the bucket or something?
Not when we're talking liquid form, right? If you're talking about, marbles or some other kind of solid substance or whatever.
But when you say by drops, that's not
drops,
solid.
We're talking about
liquid.
We're talking about liquid.
And it can go all over the place.
All over the place. And that trust can be completely wasted after having filled up your bucket for so long. But the key is, how do you fix it?
How do you get the drops to start dripping again? The drip. I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All
So let's talk about it,
I'm
right?
following you.
Oh man, trust is so here. Here's the deal for me, and in my devotionals I read, daily, and I kind of grasp this information. I think people many times get trust confused with forgiveness.
Trust and forgiveness.
Yeah. Hear me out.
Okay. I'm following.
The trust, of course, you lost it. Like, man, you broke my trust. I can't trust you. You can still forgive someone that's broken your trust.
Yes.
You can absolutely forgive them. And quite frankly, if you are a Christian, as you claim to be, you know that we are a Christian marriage ministry. So if you're listening to us, you already know kind of where we stand, what our attitudes are surrounding that. But if you are a true Christian, forgiveness should be given immediately. The forgiveness frees you. You're not freeing the person. You're freeing yourself from the weight that offense carries or can carry on your life, on your heart, on your mind, those kinds of things. But it's still up to the individual, the offender, to build that trust again, to allow themselves to kind of start over. Because if you had it once, quite frankly, I think you can have it again. Now, this is not for the habitual offenders,
Repeat
that
offenders.
are just out there, just
Even though they deserve that same forgiveness.
They do.
Maybe not the opportunity to build that trust again, because again, that probably has been your whole bucket all dented up and messed up. But the forgiveness should be there anyway, regardless of the number of offenses. Right, because we're not trying to hold on to that.
Because I think I can't. It's in the New Testament. I want to say Mark somewhere in there, but they ask, God, how talking to Jesus about how many times should you forgive, and he says 7 times. I should forgive him 7 times. He says 7 times 70.
Right.
Which was basically what he's saying is just you just keep forgiving, right? Because he forgives us. But nevertheless, I digress.
Before you go back to where you were,
okay,
I want to make sure that we're clear on what we're talking about too. Right now, we are talking about within your marriage. So
absolutely,
it's a whole nother situation when you're talking about your neighbor. It's a whole nother situation when you're talking about your co-workers.
Yeah, they might have to get a pop knot. You know what I'm saying?
Pop,
people.
Pop knot.
And then you can ask the Lord for forgiveness.
You know what?
No.
Don't. Stay focused. Okay. What we're talking about is between a husband and a wife. And if we're talking about between a husband and wife, let me keep myself focused too, messing with him. That forgiveness should be there every time. The opportunity to build that trust should be there every time.
Absolutely.
And to honor the trust that you're being given should be there every time. So we shouldn't have repeat offenders. We shouldn't have habitual spillage of the trust. Right? Absolutely. Okay, so let's keep that in mind as we go through this.
Yes. So building that trust again, of course, that will be the goal. And,
right.
If you're going to give the true forgiveness, because you should, holding on to the grudges, holding on to the offenses, it only hurts you. So you got to give that forgiveness. You got to give it, and give it as quickly as you can, so you can start healing. If you never give that forgiveness, then the healing process really truly can't begin the way that it needs to. Holding on to that and that grudge is almost is like drinking poison, and you want the other person to die.
Yeah, that's a good visual.
Yeah, so right. It's you gotta let it go. You gotta release that offense. And again, it is not excusing the offense, but it is diminishing the weight
that you carry
on the offense on yourself. It's just like, hey man, I'm not, you don't get a pass for this, but I forgive you. I forgive you for what you did for hiding that money from us in a separate account, or for the infidelity that you carried, that you had this emotional or even a physical affair with whoever, for lying to me, whatever the offense might be. Forgiving that offense will help you to move closer and quicker towards healing.
Okay, so if we're starting with forgiveness, in starting the drip in the bucket again, that's what we're trying to do, because we're trying to build this trust back up again. It sounds like it doesn't even, it may not doesn't, but may not even start with the offender.
The forgiveness?
Yes, that may start the building of the trust again.
Oh, no.
May not even start with the one who did the offending, the one who did wrong. It may start with you,
the offended.
The offended. Oh, now that's hard. Is that not hard?
The hardest part of this is because you have to make a conscious decision that you're going to allow that trust bucket to start to get filled
Well,
again.
first I need to see that, I can lift this bucket back up and put it in its rightful space or area so that it can receive the drip, and I have to make sure that the water pressure is just right and it's warm or what have you for the drip to start, because I could put this bucket back up here again and you could kick it clear across the room, and who wants to deal with that? So I need you to assure me first, the offender to assure the offended, that this is going to be right this time and that we have it together, because I just can't afford for you to keep messing up my bucket.
You know what?
What?
That sounds like a grand idea, but that's not how it works.
No?
Because unfortunately, the offended is going to have to start to trust again. In some capacity, you're going to have to be able to allow your heart to be open to let the offender start to rebuild that trust. Allow the drops to start to get filled. And it can't be based on what I did, because if you truly forgive me, you're not dangling this thing over my head. You're not bringing it up every time we might have a disagreement, or the last time you did, or remember you said, it's so easy to revisit those things and to bring them back up. And all it does is really just kind of push you back to ground zero.
Sometimes we may have a slight disagreement on this one, maybe, because I do feel like if there has been an offense, whatever that offense may be, we need to address it and we need to talk about it, and we need to understand where it came from. Sometimes you even want to get to the root of it, because if you know how you dig the roots up, you won't have to worry about that anymore. Nothing's going to grow there anymore. So if we need to get to the root of it, find out what the problem is, kill that thing off so we don't have this happen again, understanding where it came from so we don't have that anymore, and then we can move forward. But sometimes the offended is still so embarrassed about what they did or uncomfortable about what happened that they don't want to address it. Nope, let's not talk about that anymore. I said I wasn't going to.
The offender?
I'm sorry, the offender. It feels that way. The offender feels that way. And they don't want to talk about it anymore. They push it to the side. And sometimes even the offended. I'm so embarrassed about what you did. I'm so embarrassed about how I felt. I don't want to talk about this anymore at all.
Right.
So they brush it under the rug, set up the bucket, prepare the drip to start, and I don't know, the pipes froze.
Or you set up the bucket, but it's not on a level surface. And as much as you fill it up, if it's tilted a little bit, let's say it's a small little bucket, the more you put in, the more that'll pour out. So you never really kind of get back to that level. But I think I follow what you're saying, that it could be such a sensitive space for both parties,
right,
that you may never really uncover or get to where you can get to that ground zero space to start to rebuild.
You don't realize there's a leak in your bucket.
Right.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So at that point, how do we both come together to establish where we are, what's going on, what happened, so that we can seal the leak in the bucket, set the bucket up right, and get started again? Because that has to happen from both sides.
So I think, if we're going to try to give Some advice on this. I think number one, we have to, of course, admit and identify and admit our wrong in it. Um, if you
As the
offender,
okay,
correct. Admit you're wrong. Own your wrong. Don't try to make excuses about it. Don't try to push the blame on the other side, because you are in control of your own actions. No one can make you do anything that you don't want to do, outside of being under duress with a gun to your head or something. But even then, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But you have to own
consequences.
The problem. Own what you did, accept what you did, and then open yourself up to be vulnerable enough to be able to receive whatever the offended has to say about that, because you can't be so fragile that you just say, okay, I did it. Now let's move on.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. They have an opportunity. You offended them. They have an opportunity to express how they feel about, or how you made them feel by the offense that you committed.
And of course we're playing, the offender and the offended, but it could be either way, right? It's not always a male or what have you.
Because I don't offend.
But as the offended, that I would think what James was saying before too is opening yourself up again, you too being vulnerable enough to give it another chance.
Right.
To say, I do want to trust you. Because if you're at this point, you're married, you're in this thing deep, right? Waist deep already. You already have a level of trust that you have there. And to be able to extend it and allow yourself to be vulnerable again, to say, yes, I open up myself to whatever happens. I trust you again. I want to give this another try. I want to make this work. That takes a lot.
It does.
That takes a lot, especially in the face of an offense.
Absolutely. I think the next thing you have to do, number two, would be determine, as the offender, why you did it.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
You have to understand what in the world was I thinking, or where was I, what place? Yes.
Whatever it is.
And that's hard. That's hard. Because that's
is.
some real vulnerability. Because sometimes people think, so we learn, it's not just the surface, oh, she was fine, or, oh, I really wanted to surprise you, if it's about some money situation, or whatever. It
sneaks up.
Oh, it's usually not the surface deal.
The devil has a way of being that little crock pot, right? It just kind of, it builds up little stuff. You turn it on, and stuff you may not notice right now, but after a while, the heat gets going, and once that thing is on, it's on. But it's a gradual kind of deal that kind of pushes you to it. So you have to be able to determine why you did what you did, and also be open to discuss that with the offended.
Right.
Discuss it and say, hey, this is why, because quite frankly, I think the offended needs to hear why you felt like that was the solution to fix whatever whatever you did at that time. They need to hear that. And then last but not least, I think a true discussion on how we're never going to go there again. It has to be. It's not that you won't ever make a mistake, but that offense, if you're truly sorry and you want forgiveness for that, you have to really, truly help to understand, make the offended understand that you're not going to do that again. That was misjudgment on my part. I have no excuses. I own it. This is why I did it. It wasn't your fault. Talk about it, and then you move on.
And again, to revisit something else James said, as the offended, that does mean we had this discussion, we understand each other, we talked about it, we talked it through. You have something else you need to say, let's put it on the table. Because next week, we not going to slap her in the head with it.
Right.
Next week, we not going to slide it under his pillow. Next week, we not going to, dangle it over his head, as he said. Right? This is something we want to discuss. We want to grow from. We want to become stronger from within our marriage and move forward. I mean, it's embarrassing for him to think about. It's embarrassing for you to keep bringing up, and it becomes a bigger issue each and every time. But that's why you're discussing it.
Right.
So again, we set the bucket up, we seal it up, turn the water on, start the drip.
That's the way to fix it.
But it's up to you, right?
It is.
It's both of you.
Both parties.
Both of you.
Both
That's how
parties.
you fix it. Right.
You got to fix it together.
I agree.
That's it. Fixing broken trust. Two willing parties can absolutely do it, no matter what the offense is.
No matter what the offense is. I say this a lot too. People talk about deal breakers all the time. And I don't know, 10 years ago or even longer, or definitely before I got married, there's so many things that I thought were deal breakers.
Right.
When you're in this thing, when you're married and you're committed and you have this covenant with this man, or you have a covenant with this woman, nothing can break that. Nothing can break that. So be real careful about what you think deal breakers are, and where did you determine that was a deal breaker? Sometimes it's your girl's deal breaker and now it becomes yours. Or that was your mom's deal breaker and now it becomes yours.
Absolutely.
Make sure it's your deal breaker, right? Make sure it's something that you say, okay, this is it for me. Not based on, somebody else's experiences, but based on your own. And remember, this thing is solid. It's the two of you. So if this means a lot to you, which it should, you want to do whatever you can to keep it.
Absolutely.
What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I was just amening what you were saying. That's definitely true. All right. So there you have it. You can fix the trust. You can rebuild.
Absolutely.
You can start again. All right. Well, as we mentioned before, please share this information with anyone that you feel can use it. It is inspiration from God, and He gives it to us, and we give it to you.
Yes.
It's as raw and uncultured as it might be. This is what He puts on our hearts, and we want to share it with you. So we pray that you share this with someone that you feel that can use it, and just let them know that there's someone out there that is rooting for your marriage.
Absolutely.
All right. As we close out with our quote from Miss Angelou, do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better,
do better.
I am James Lee.
And I'm Tasha Lee.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Peace.